Exposed, 7 Sinister, haunted treasures hidden in the woods that will haunt your NIGHTMRES. Lisa took a deep breath as she pushed through the creaking back door, stepping onto the worn porch of her once vibrant suburban home. The woods loomed behind her, thick and twisted, shrouded in a darkness that swallowed any remaining light. It felt alive, as if it was watching her, and she shivered, pulling her jacket tighter around her weary frame. The neighborhood had decayed, along with her hope. Peeling paint, overgrown lawns, and vacant houses whispered stories of despair. But she had Mark and Emily to think of, and she fought daily to keep the shadows at bay. That evening, as darkness draped over the sky, 10-year-old Mark dashed into the woods, chasing after an errant breeze that beckoned him. Emily, just 7 and full of questions, stood close to their house, peering into the darkened trees, her instincts screaming that something was off. "Mark! Come back!" She called, but her voice was swallowed by the heavy silence. Something about the woods felt wrong tonight. As Mark pushed deeper into the thicket, he stumbled upon an unmarked path, hidden beneath tangled branches and buried memories. The dead leaves crunched underfoot as he stepped cautiously, his heart racing with curiosity that masked a growing dread. He felt drawn, almost enchanted, as if something unseen was pulling him forward. When he reached a clearing, he spotted them 7 artifacts, each half buried in the cold, hard earth. Old trinkets that thrummed with a peculiar energy, their surfaces glistening with moisture, held stories that felt like shards of shadow reaching out for him. With every item he unearthed, whispers twined around him, chilling his spine. "What did you find?" Emily whispered as Mark came home, the pallor on her face matched only by the cold sweat on his brow. He laid the treasures on the table. They glimmered, their dark histories igniting something deep within the walls of their home. But with the dusk, a thick tension settled, prickling the air like static electricity. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The moment he finished speaking, the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of dread swirling around them. Their neighbor, once a friendly face, now shot them knowing glances that felt unnervingly invasive. Shadows danced at the corners of their vision, and before long, Emily vanished, leaving an echo of her soft laughter behind. Panic exploded in Lisa's chest as she called for her daughter, frantically searching their empty house. The walls closed in, every corner harboring a growing sense of dread. Guided by a chill running down her spine, Lisa's heart raced as she found herself drawn back to the woods. The spindly trees, tall and gnarled, seemed to whisper her secrets that lie in the depths. Unbidden thoughts twisted, and the air grew thick with an unseen malice. Those treasures were connected to more than just haunting whispers, they tugged at the fabric of her reality. With every step forward, the atmosphere deepened with desperation and darkness, as if time itself conspired against her resolve. The sinister truth dawned, the very depths of their community were uplifting shadows hiding from the light. As the wind shifted, she heard a voice, familiar yet twisted, pulling her deeper into the darkness. "They're already watching you." Lisa stumbled forward, the leaves crunching beneath her as if warning her to turn back. The evening air was thick with an acrid smell, something that clawed at her throat. She forced herself to push through, driven by sheer panic. "Emily." Her voice cracked, desperation drenching her words. A low rumble followed, vibrating through the ground. It sounded like a warning or a low growl from deep within the earth. Reaching the clearing, her eyes darted wildly, scanning the shadows. The artifacts gleamed faintly under the moonlight, each one a sinister siren call. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, threatening to burst. She now recalled each one, especially the fierce ruby amulet, which felt alive, pulsating like a heartbeat. It was beautiful, yet somehow dreadfully wrong. As she stepped closer, the air changed, electrified with a thick fear. The whispers rose again, swirling in ghostly tones, echoing her name, Lisa. Each call felt like icy fingers wrapping around her throat, choking her breath. Nothing made sense anymore. The woods weren't just a backdrop, they were something darker, a trap. They didn't welcome her, they were hungry. Emily! She screamed again. An unsettling silence followed, wrapping her in isolation. She felt the weight of the world behind her, urging her onward yet keeping her terrified. She closed her eyes for a moment, willed herself to breathe. Then a familiar giggle, right behind her, spinning around, Lisa's breath caught. Emily! Emerging from the shadows, her daughter stood with wide, innocent eyes, fingers clutching the glimmering trinkets. But there was something off about her smile. It seemed stretched, too wide, almost unnatural. The laughter that had echoed moments ago hung in the air like a taunt. "Mommy, look what I found." Emily's voice rang with a strange sing-song quality. "They want to play." "No, we need to go home." Lisa insisted, her voice trembling with a mix of relief and fear. But Emily stood firm, the glow from the artifacts reflecting in her eyes like a malicious moon. "They said I can stay, that I can be one of them." "What?" "No!" Lisa yelled, lunging forward in a panic to grab her daughter's arm. The moment she touched her, the world shifted, a jolt of energy surging through her, colder than ice. Lisa gasped, feeling the very essence of her daughter slipping away, replaced by something ancient and wicked. Emily's features changed subtly, shifting shadows across her delicate face. "Mommy, don't you want to play?" The words came out wrong, layered with undertones of something far more sinister. Lisa's instincts screamed at her to run. But her feet felt glued to the earth, weighed down by a fear deeper than the roots of the twisted trees. A moan echoed from the depths of the woods, a harsh, raspy sound that resonated with centuries of despair. "No, I won't let you take her." Lisa shrieked, her voice cracking. Rage surged through her, an instinct fighting against the dread creeping over her. With every ounce of strength, she pulled Emily away, but the child's grip tightened, as if the treasures wrapped invisible chains around her. Wild energy crackled in the air. "Let go. I'll free you," Lisa cried, her pulse racing. But suddenly, the playful echoing laughter turned to eerie shrieks, piercing the night. The shadows around them morphed and writhed, beckoning, clawing at Lisa's mind. "Stay, join us." Just when it seemed all would be lost, an ancient whisper cut through the chaos, "There's always a price to pay." Lisa's heart froze. The ground beneath quivered, threatening to swallow them whole. "Run! Now!" But before she could pull Emily away, darkness swirled thickly around them, a void eager to consume. As light flickered and her world began to collapse, Lisa felt something sharp pierce her hand, one of the artifacts. It glowed fiercely, its hum intensifying, resonating with her very core. "Can't let go. Must hold on." And then she realized, the choice she faced was not just to save her daughter but to unleash an unspeakable power. What ancient horror thrived in this cursed place? The ground trembled more violently now, a menacing pulse that synced with the rhythm of Lisa's heart. The artifacts vibrated in eerie harmony, their glow intensifying, wrapping her in a shroud of energy that felt both intoxicating and repulsive. She wanted to look away, to turn her back and run, but her gaze was locked on Emily, her daughter's face, a canvas for something dark and twisted. "Mommy!" Emily's voice faded into a distant echo, replaced by unsettling whispers that clawed at the edges of Lisa's mind. "Join us, be one of us." She could feel the tendrils of fear wrapping tightly around her throat, squeezing. This wasn't her Emily. This was a vessel, an empty shell filled with deep-rooted malice. "Please, sweetie, listen to me." Lisa's voice broke as she fought to stay anchored in the moment. She had to bring her daughter back. With newfound resolve, she gripped the artifact that had pierced her hand, feeling its cold energy surge through her veins. "What do you want?" she screamed into the void, her voice slicing through the whispers. The laughter stopped, replaced by a bone-chilling silence that spread like ice through the clearing. The shadows held their breath. Accept the offering. A deep voice echoed from the darkness, resonating with an ancient power that shook the very leaves on the trees. Accept what is owed. Lisa's heart raced as realization clawed its way into her thoughts. What did she owe? What craving lurked beneath this twisted enchantment? Emily, fight it! She cried, squeezing her daughter's hand tighter. The energy from the artifact shot through her, intertwining with her desperate love, a shield against the tide surging towards them. Would that be enough? Suddenly, Emily's face contorted with pain, a flicker of her true self breaking through. "Mommy, it hurts," she wailed, and Lisa felt a burst of hope. There was still a chance. "Hold on to me, Emily. You're stronger than this," Lisa shouted, raising the artifact like a weapon. The burst of power flared in response, illuminating the shadows with a fierce light. The whispers turned into wails, a cacophony of anguish. Shadows writhed, claws reaching for Emily, trying to pull her back into the abyss. Lisa could hear the echo of thousands of souls trapped in this hell, their agony colliding with her determination. In that moment, she felt the curse binding them together. With a primal scream, she plunged the artifact deeper into her hand, an offering of sacrifice that pulsed with her heartbeat. Take her. Light exploded from the artifact, a nuclear blast in the darkness. The shadows screamed, shrinking and flailing as the essence of the forest twisted under their anguish. Emily's grip faltered, her eyes wide with horror and confusion. "Mommy, I can't then fight." "You're not alone." The energy surrounded them both, pushing back against the encroaching darkness as layers of tension unraveled in waves. But it wasn't enough. They needed to break the bond that tied Emily to this cursed place. "Say my name," Lisa cried. "Say it. Break free." But something dark and primal seized hold of the little girl, snuffing out her words. Lisa's breath quickened, fear encompassing her again. The shadows coiled tighter around them, ominous and relentless. "No. No." Lisa screamed again. The ground beneath them cracked, and from the fissure emerged shadows like claws, stretching and reaching. Her heart pounded louder than the thunderous silence that followed the explosion of light. And just as she thought she had lost everything, Emily's bewildered eyes locked onto hers. "Mommy?" A jolt of hope flashed before Lisa. But before she could react, dark tendrils shot from the ground, wrapping around her ankles, pulling her down. Panic surged through her veins. "Emily!" With a shriek, Lisa lost her grip as the darkness surged, greedy and insatiable. In that moment, the ground yawned wide, and with a final scream, the last thing Lisa saw was Emily's terrified face, swallowed by the shadows. The clearing fell silent again, but only for a moment. A chilling melody began as the artifacts hummed. Harmonious, vibrating with newfound power. Somewhere, deep within the forest, shadows twisted and danced, eager to play what had been awakened. Light faded, swallowed by a dark abyss as Lisa fell. Panic clawed at her throat, each desperate gasp fading into the void. The shadows tangled around her like barbed vines, pulling her deeper into the ancient heart of the forest, where whispers turned to growls. "Emily!" She screamed again, but the sound was lost, devoured by the smothering darkness. Her thoughts raced, ricocheting between fear and anger. She was still fighting. She had to be. Suddenly, the grip of the shadows loosened, dropping her roughly onto hard ground. Gasping, Lisa scrambled to her feet, blinking against the fading light. The landscape around her had transformed. The clearing was gone, replaced by a twisted realm of gnarled trees and oily mist, thick as molasses. Everywhere she looked, distorted figures flickered in the haze, faces half-remembered but twisted, the souls of the forest, trapped and tormented. Their cries echoed like a haunting melody, an unsettling symphony of despair that crawled under Lisa's skin. "Mommy!" Emily's voice pierced the gloom. It was faint, echoing like a lost child calling from the deepest recess of the woods. "Emily!" Lisa shouted, urgency fueling her movements. She stumbled forward, the ground slick beneath her feet. Each step felt weighted, as though the forest itself was trying to hold her back. A rustling sound made her freeze. Shadows glided past her on silent wings, their forms shifting, always just out of sight. "Help me!" Emily's voice trembled, distant and growing weaker. Lisa's heart sank. She couldn't allow fear to root her to the ground. She pressed onward, fighting against the urge to turn and run. "I'm coming. Stay with me." The shadows encircled her, wild and frenzied. Faint whispers rose in a cacophony, words twisted into commands, weaving around her thoughts. "Join us, be one." Feed. Lisa shook her head, trying to clear the fog of dread thickening around her. Flickers of memories flashed within her mind, time spent with Emily, joy amidst laughter. "No. I won't lose you." She lurched forward, calling her daughter's name again, louder this time. Rounding a petrified tree, she skidded to a halt, the silhouette of something large loomed in the hazy distance. Black tendrils snaked forth from the monstrous figure, lashing out like serpents. Her breath hitched at the sight, a grotesque form, half human, half shadow, with eyes that gleamed with hunger. A twisted grin spread across its visage, revealing dark, jagged teeth. "It's too late," it spoke with a voice like cracking ice. "She belongs to the forest now. Get away from her." Lisa's voice trembled, thoughts racing like a wild river. As terror flooded her senses, anger propelled her forward. The artifact still pulsed between her fingers, faintly glowing a sliver of hope in this malevolent dark. The monster shrieked, a hissing wail that pierced through the smoke in an attempt to disorient her. "Sacrifice her, and you will be free." "No. I won't." Lisa lunged at the dark being, raising the artifact defiantly. It felt like an anchor tethering her to sanity as shadows writhed around them, fighting against her light, but as the creature laughed a cruel, hollow sound, Lisa's resolve faltered. What if fighting only made things worse? What if saving Emily meant losing herself? Emily's muffled whimper echoed through the night. Doubt seeped in, a worm gnawing through her determination. Was there even a way out? "Mommy!" The urgency cracked like thunder through the ethereal silence, and in that instant, Lisa felt the weight of her own choices crashing down. Trembling, she stepped closer to the creature. "I will make a deal." But before she could speak further, the forest erupted into chaos, a thunderous rattle accompanied by shattering shadows. Lisa braced herself as everything spun in a whirlpool of darkness and sound. And just like that, she felt herself lifted, detached from the ground like a marionette caught in a storm. "Is this the end?" she thought. Would giving in to despair save Emily, or would it seal their fate forever? As the writhing shadows pulled tighter around her, obscuring her vision, Lisa could only wonder what darkness awaited on the other side. The world swirled around her, a tempest of shadow and sound. Lisa felt suspended between realms, her body limp but her mind racing. "Fight it!" she screamed internally, but the words vanished in the maelstrom. The darkness pressed against her, heavy as lead. Then, abruptly, she collapsed to the ground, a rough patch of earth that tore at her skin. The haze began to lift, revealing a haunting scene sprawled out before her. Twisted, skeletal trees reached upward as if clawing at the sky, their bark peeling like decaying skin. She was surrounded by shadows, but now they morphed into grotesque shapes, figures of despair with eyes hollow and sockets deep. "Emily!" she cried out, desperation clawing through her throat. The air around her felt thick, charged with a malevolence that gnawed at her soul. Maybe the creature had made her a part of this darkness. Maybe she was now watched, judged by the anguished souls that lingered. Movement flickered at the corner of her vision. A flash of light. Turning, she spotted a glimmer in the distance, faint but undeniable. Emily! Hope ignited within her chest, and she pushed forward, wading through the mire of shadows. Each step felt like wading through muck, pulling at her feet, determined to hold her back. As Lisa drew near, the glimmer transformed into a small, fragile figure hunched beneath a sprawling tree, a ghostly apparition of her daughter. Mommy Emily's voice was a whisper, fragile as glass. Emily. Lisa's heart shattered at the sight. Before she could reach out, shadows surged toward her, thrumming with angry energy. They coiled around her legs, squeezing tighter, cutting off her breath. No. Lisa thrashed against their grip, but they only entangled her further. Join us, the voices of the damned echoed around her, a chorus of desperation and longing. Feed the forest. Give up your pain. Shut up. Lisa shouted, fighting against the darkness wrapping around her like barbed wire. But the shadows pressed in, their cold tendrils slithering along her skin, digging deeper into her mind. Images flickered, her family, her worst fears, moments of hurt that made her want to flee. Doubt seeped in, like icy water running through her veins. Mommy, help me. Emily pleaded, her eyes wide and filled with terror. They want me. Lisa felt her heart wrench. I want to let them take you. She lunged forward, adrenaline filling her with wild strength. Shoving against the shadows, she reached for her daughter, but the figures rose up, forming a wall between them, refusing passage. Sacrifice her and you will know peace, came the creature's voice, smooth and tempting, nursing her darkest impulses. Lisa's mind raced. Could she do it? Could she give up everything to save Emily? Just the thought sent icy dread down her spine. Don't listen. Yet the shadows hissed, weaving around her thoughts. The forest will embrace you. You can be free of this pain, be one of us, a scream echoed through the air. Mommy. Emily's voice shattered any flicker of hesitation, and without thinking, Lisa lunged wildly. Adrenaline surged. She had to reach her. Desperation ignited within her as the artifact flickered brightly in her hand. Summoning all her will, she pressed it against the nearest shadow. Light erupted, a blast that sent waves of energy crashing through the darkness. She heard screams, howls of anguish as they were scorched by the sudden illumination. But shadows flooded back in a roiling wave, pushing her down. A dark whisper brushed against her ear. This can end, all you have to do is let go. Her fingers trembled over the artifact. No. Lisa roared, shaking her head violently. I have to save her. As if hearing her proclamation, the darkness shrieked anew, pulling tighter, squeezing her, grasping at her sanity. Emily's figure began to fade, slipping deeper into the dark abyss of twisted shadows. Don't lose me. The desperation in her daughter's voice pierced Lisa's heart like a dagger. Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath her feet, throwing her against the nearby tree. The forest rumbled ominously, shadows swirling, threatening to collapse. On her. Emily. The raw agony in her voice reverberated through the desolate space. Would the darkness snatch her daughter away forever? In that moment, Lisa knew she couldn't back down. Hold on. She drew strength from the artifact, ready to unleash its power with everything she had, but what if the light only drew her closer to the monster? Breathless and consumed by anguish, Lisa readied herself. The fate of her daughter depended on her next move. And as the shadows bristled with fury, she felt the finality of choices poised to redefine their destinies. The light surged forth, a desperate beacon cutting through the suffocating night. Lisa felt its warmth against her skin, a flicker of hope that mixed with the fear pulsating in her chest. But was it truly hope, or a cruel illusion spun by the shadows? Get away from her! She shouted, her voice steady with anger, echoing through the desolate forest. The shadows recoiled, hissing as they retreated momentarily from the brilliance. Lisa lunged forward again, the glimmer of her daughter's figure more than a reflection. Her whole world teetered on the edge of that spectral form. Mommy! Emily's cry cracked like glass. The shadows writhed, whispering again, trying to lure Lisa with silver-tongued promises. You can still join us, Lisa. Embrace the darkness. Let it take away your pain. No. Every fiber of Lisa's being screamed. She felt her heart racing wildly, and at that moment, it wasn't just her daughter she fought for, but herself. I am not yours to take. The shadows around her surged, their forms dark and grotesque. They howled with frustration, pressing in from all sides, suffocating her thoughts. Each whisper, a twisted memory, clawed at her consciousness, muffled laughter of moments long gone, her husband's tender gaze, the warmth of a life that felt so distant now. Sacrifice for peace, the wretched tones hissed, their words a chilling caress against her skin. You can be free again, she pushed back. Remembering her daughter, she clawed at the earth, ignoring the anguish tearing through her as she forced her body closer to Emily. The shadows fell back, their sinister forms leaning away from the light that pulsed with the artifact's energy, radiating power like a wounded star. Hold on, Emily. Just hold on. Lisa cried, watching as Emily shimmered like an ethereal flame fighting against the dark winds, unsure of which path would lead to salvation. Lisa felt a surge of resolve. With every ounce of strength, she pressed the artifact deeper into the heart of the encroaching shadows. You don't own me. You will not take my daughter. An explosion of light resonated through the forest, temporarily severing the suffocation of dark tendrils. Lisa gasped for breath as the brightness illuminated twisted faces, eyes filled with a terror rivaling her own. This was their karma, their torment reflected in the fading streaks of light, but the shadows didn't recede completely. They swirled, growing angry and frantic, a storm-gathering force. The ground beneath her feet trembled again, and she felt instability surging, reflecting her internal struggle. Mommy! The plea rang out again, more fragile than glass, and it shattered her resolve. In an instant, the darkness charged, a vertical wave crashing over her in furious vengeance. Lisa's heart sank, the shadowy grips felt more pronounced, holding her with constraints that mixed pain with the overwhelming desire to flee. Let her go, you monsters! Lisa screamed, pressing the artifact against the nearest shadow again, desperately hoping to deter their wrath, but the shadows absorbed the light as quickly as it came. Your love cannot save her, they crooned, turning the words into a chilling melody that reverberated inside her mind. Embrace the agony. We will give you peace. She felt her fingers twitch, the option of relinquishing the fight creeping into her thoughts. The shadows tightened their grip, squeezing her breath until desperation clawed at her throat. Suddenly, in that swirling chaos, she realized a fractured truth. This was her battle against despair, a mother's love omnipresent, urging her to fight, to push, to unravel the very fabric of this nightmare. Emily! She screamed defiantly, as the shadows began to merge into one monstrous being, dark and enormous, its breath foul and tight like a vice. I will not betray you. But as the darkness loomed larger, an unsettling thought raised its head. What if trust had become the very key? What if, instead of fighting, she could harness the light? Mommy, it hurts. Emily's voice trembled from beyond, the shadows still claiming their hold on her. Lisa's heartbeat thundered in her ears. In that instant, she had to choose: embrace this darkness, or battle with the truth of her own soul and the consuming shadows trying to intertwine with her heart. The shadows surged forward, and she felt the artifact pulse again, but now, inside her swirling emotion, the question lingered: what if the light was more dangerous than the darkness? Fear washed over her as she braced for the next monstrous wave. Would the battle for her daughter shatter the last remnants of her sanity? And suddenly, the forest grew eerily silent, all eyes waiting, holding their breath, as the dreaded moment awaited her decision. The shadows coiled tighter, their forms twisting grotesquely, a serpentine mass of malice closing in on Lisa. She gritted her teeth, feeling their ice-cold breath brushing against her skin, each gust a reminder of what she stood to lose. The forest was silent now, as if even the trees held their breath, waiting for her to make a choice. Find the light within, Lisa, a gentle voice whispered, cutting through the cacophony of despair. It was the voice of her late husband, a soft echo in a sea of chaos. The shadows paused, a momentary lull in their attack, as if they feared the power of her memories. Christopher. Her heart twisted painfully at the sound of his name. The sweet scent of his cologne flickered past her senses, grounding her momentarily in a recollection of love and warmth. Remember who you are. Find your light, the words wrapped around her, clinging like a lifeline. Could she really find light within this darkness? Drawing on the memory of Christopher's love, she closed her eyes and focused, feeling warmth bloom inside her. Embrace the love. She shouted, her voice surging with newfound strength. She felt the artifact pulse in her hands, responding to her call, flooding the clearing with light again. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the brightness, their forms blurred and erratic as the light pressed them back. For a moment, Lisa could almost see Emily's face clearly through the chaos, bright-eyed and smiling, before the darkness swallowed it whole again. Emily. Her voice cracked, desperation clawing at her throat, but she pushed through. We'll fight them together. She opened her eyes, now ablaze with the fire of maternal fury. She took a step forward and felt a powerful warmth radiating from the artifact. It was as if her intent transformed light into a weapon. Let her go. She screamed again, this time with the strength born from every fiber of her being. Shadows writhed, screeching like tormented souls as they twisted away from the brilliance. Yet, even in the light's glow, she saw flickers of greed swirling at the edges, figures lurking just beyond reach, waiting for a moment of weakness to strike. Mommy. Please. Emily's cry was desperate, an echo of pure anguish piercing the veil of darkness, shaking Lisa to her core. Don't give in. She urged, drawing more light from deep within herself, recalling all that she had lost and fought for. Every smile, every whispered promise between them transformed into a force, intensifying the glow of the artifact. As it expanded, shadows hissed, their furious forms twisting and contorting in agony. The ground shook violently beneath her feet, a tremor of dark energy pushing against her light, forcing her to question if this moment was enough. This can't be it. I have to save her. Frustration mounted, threatening to drown her in despair. But then, a realization hit her. What if releasing her daughter to the light was the only way? I have to trust you, Emily. Trust me. In that instant, the shadows charged again, a tidal wave of darkness crashing toward her. Lisa held the artifact high, heart pounding like a war drum, and shouted, I choose love. I'll not let you take her. A brilliant flash erupted from the artifact, forcing back the approaching tide and illuminating the forest canopy, which trembled and creaked under the weight of the struggle. Shadows shrieked, splitting apart like fog in the sun, scattering in a furious burst of darkness. But Lisa's pulse raced. Was this enough? Then she felt it, a tug at the edge of her consciousness. The craftiness of the shadows reformed, shifting back, weaving together remnants of their dark essence, plotting their revenge. Flee! It's not over. They howled, a cold whisper that rattled through her bones as they swept back with increasing ferocity. And as her light flickered, she realized the fight was far from over. Would surrendering to the darkness save them both, or would trust become an even greater weapon against the consuming void? The very forest around her seemed to twist into a malevolent shadow, a portent of the struggles yet to come. And with a final, terrified gasp, just as her light began to dim amid the swirling chaos, Lisa wondered if she was to merge with the shadows. Would she save Emily, or would they lose each other forever? The ground trembled beneath Lisa's feet, twisting and shaking as if the earth itself was trying to rebel against the darkness. The shadows hissed, a guttural sound that grated on her nerves and sent icy tendrils of fear creeping up her spine. In that moment, she stood on the precipice between love and despair, memory and oblivion. Mommy! Emily's voice echoed through the dark, a piercing note that shattered Lisa's resolve even as it reignited her desperation. Stay with me, Emily. I'm trying. She shouted, focusing all her energy on the artifact, willing it to pulse with brighter light. The air crackled around her, heavy with the weight of unseen eyes watching, waiting, wanting. But as the shadows recoiled, their wails intensified, morphing into a discordant symphony of rage. Delusion. Light cannot protect you here. They screeched, and the ground beneath her cracked like ice. Lisa felt the artifact vibrate, its energy flickering, mirroring her fear. I won't let you touch her. She cried fiercely. She summoned every shard of her strength, channeling it through the artifact, but a dark wave surged back, slapping her with a powerful shock that a surge of doubt crashed over her. Was she really doing this alone? Could love truly conquer the depths of this nightmare? Just as the shadows lunged forward, a glimmer of hope sparked within her. Emily. She steadied her breath. You're not lost. Remember our trick? The one we made up together. The shadows hesitated, intrigued by her defiance. You think mere memories can save you? They tittered, voices merging into a mocking chorus. Close your eyes. Just like we practiced. Lisa shouted. The darkness stirred, swirling with indecisiveness, fixated on the relic that in the depths of her heart, Lisa felt the warmth of her daughter's laughter. The innocent joy burst forth, flooding her spirit, and the sheer force of that emotion struck like a tidal wave. We're more than this darkness. She screamed, and a resounding pulse surged from her, bright and ferocious. The light expanded explosively, scattering the shadows and pushing them back, but the darkness shimmered with ancient malice. You cannot keep us at bay forever, they howled, oozing with promises of terror that wrapped around her like chains. Her breath came in gasps as panic clenched her throat. Will it ever end? She whispered, feeling despair clawing at her consciousness. Just then, the air buzzed Emily's voice emanating from the darkness, weak yet unwavering. Mommy, I see you. I'm not lost. Hold on. Lisa urged, thrusting the artifact outwards. Light erupted again, nearly blinding her, illuminating hollow eyes that flickered like dying stars around the clearing. The shadows screeched and hissed, but they were losing ground, the brightness consuming them like daylight against fog. Oh, Christopher! She gasped, recalling his embrace, willing him to be with her now. But just as she thought victory was within her grasp, the darkness lunged forward with renewed force. The shadows warbled as they twisted together, forming a massive, amorphous figure, a silhouette of every fear she had ever known. It roared, a sound that rattled through the trees, testing her resolve. Let go. Embrace despair. It shouted, and Lisa felt her strength waver. Whispers echoed through the night, a flurry of lost hopes and echoes of the past painted in despair. Yet there, deep within her heart, the memory of Emily's laughter surged again, anchoring her to the light. I won tea. She cried defiantly, refusing to be reduced to chaos, but with the shadows growing desperate, the air pulsed with a chilling question that echoed through the clearing. Will you sacrifice yourself for her, Lisa? What will you become? As she grappled with the truth, a battle raged within her, love versus the shadows. Just when she thought a choice would emerge, uncertainty draped itself thick like fog, leaving her with an agonizing decision lingering in the air. Would she dare to step into that void? And would it be the only way to save Emily? The chilling wind wrapped around her, cold and unforgiving, as she stood at the edge of oblivion, waiting for the answer that may never come. The shadows shifted, swirling around her like a living wall of darkness. Lisa gasped as a sharp chill danced up her spine. She could feel it, the tension thick in the air, the lurking threat coiling tighter and tighter. The monstrous figure loomed larger, its featureless gaze boring into her, promising unspeakable horrors if only she would relent and yield. Fight! You must fight! Emily's voice rang out, emboldened. Those sweet words pierced through the darkness, igniting a flicker of courage in Lisa's heart. I won't ever let you go. But even as she held Emily in her mind, doubt surged again. How could she fight against something so vast, so engulfing? The darkness was alive, writhing with cunning and wisdom. It preyed on her emotions, twisting them until they became burdens. You are nothing. It howled, another wave crashing against her. The artifact in her hand vibrated with a desperate hum, the light dimming like a dying star. She gripped it tighter. I am not nothing. She cried back, her voice barely rising above the cacophony of despair surrounding her. With intense focus, she concentrated on the light, willing it to blaze brighter. Memories of Emily danced in her mind, their laughter in the park, the warmth of holding her close during stormy nights. With each image, she felt strength surge through her veins. "Come to me," Lisa shouted, lifting the artifact high as if it were a beacon in the storm. Light burst forth, illuminating the faces of the shadows, and for a fleeting moment, she saw them, a montage of the fears and sorrows that had clouded her life. Their eyes were hungry, wide with a mix of fury and terror. "Strike!" The darkness bellowed, its voice splintering into a million echoes that ripped through the night. Lisa staggered back as they lunged, stretching like grasping fingers, a tidal wave of despair aiming to engulf her. "Emily!" she screamed, throwing herself forward, pushing against the weight of anguish that sought to pull her apart. Her courage ignited another surge of light, sending shockwaves that forced the shadows to recoil. But they were relentless, feeding off her fear, growing bolder, rushing at her with merciless speed. With each flicker, the very ground seemed to pull her down, binding her will to the chaos around her. Frantically, Lisa scanned her surroundings. Where was her daughter? "Emily! Speak to me!" She needed to reach out, to grasp whatever flicker of hope remained. "Mommy! I'm still here!" Emily called again, but the shadows twisted her voice, turning it into a ghostly echo. "Help me!" Every syllable felt like a knife, slashing at Lisa's heart. She had to hold on, she had to believe. "Remember our song?" she blurted out, desperation clawing at her throat. "The one we made for bedtime, our silly little tune." With each word, she began to hum, her voice trembling but defiant. The melody resonated in the darkness, weaving around them like a safety net. For a moment, uncertainty faded, and silence settled as the shadows paused, caught off guard by the soft warmth of innocence, but that silence was deceptive. Suddenly, the darkness howled, furious at the intrusion of light. "You think you can break us with your pathetic song?" The shadows surged forward, a desperate wave of malice. "Close your eyes," Lisa urged again, grounding herself in the music. She could feel the artifact in her hand igniting beneath her touch, warmth flooding through her fingers as it pulsated with newfound energy. In that electric moment, the shadows hesitated once more. They were afraid. "Anchor yourself," Lisa shouted into the void. "Emily, we can win this. We can shine. Just trust me." Just as she felt the tide of victory swell within her, the darkness splintered and recoiled, coiling tighter, ready to lash out with greater ferocity, almost hungry for retribution, but a flicker of uncertainty crawled upon Lisa's mind. "What will you become?" the darkness teased again. It was no longer just a matter of saving Emily. It was about her very soul. What would she sacrifice in this battle? Would the shadows take root in her heart? A deafening roar erupted, scattering the walls of panic through the trees. The winds howled, shrieking in a cacophony of rage and despair. Lisa stood firm, but the very ground beneath her feet trembled with uncertainty, and then, just when she thought the shadows would consume her, a piercing scream ripped through the night. "Mommy!" The fear in Emily's voice exploded like a firecracker, awakening something dark within the clearing. The darkness quivered as the shriek echoed through the landscape, striking at Lisa's core. With one final, defiant shout, the shadows lunged. She braced herself for impact, resolve hardening in her chest. "I won't let you take her from me." But the question hung heavily in the tumultuous air, an ominous whisper, "What will it cost?" Lisa felt the urgency steamroll over her, drowning out the last vestiges of doubt. She summoned every memory, every lesson of love she shared with Emily, crafting them into a shield against the encroaching darkness. "I choose love," she proclaimed, pouring her heart into the artifact. It flared brilliantly in response, a beacon of defiance against the shadows. Suddenly, the air crackled and a warmth swept through her body, igniting her spirit. The light began to pulse, drawing strength from her resolve, battling against the oppressive gloom. The shadows hissed and thrashed, trying to push against the surging glow that erupted in vengeance. "You've taken enough." With fierce determination, she thrust the artifact forward, and a tidal wave of light crashed over the dark mass. "Mommy!" Emily's voice broke through the chaos, clear and piercing. It reverberated through Lisa's tortured frame as a sliver of hope ignited within her heart. "I'm here. I'm fighting for you." More fiercely than ever, she harnessed the artifact's power, allowing light to swell around her like an ocean tide. The shadows screamed, their anguished cries echoing through the forest as bereaved souls. Tendrils of darkness snapped and writhed, clawing futilely at the surging light that engulfed them. The earth shook once more, roots and debris flying as if the very ground was rebelling against the darkness's clutch, but even as the light surged, Lisa felt the sinister force of despair creep back in. Will it ever end? She wondered, the question slicing through her resolve. Was she truly breaking free, or simply prolonging the inevitable? Then she spotted it, a glimmer in the shadows, flickering and faint, yet undeniable. Emily's figure floated just beyond the shadow's grasp, eyes wide with terror yet flickering with the same spirit that bound them in love. "Mommy! Don't give up." Feeling a surge of determination, Lisa channeled all her love into the artifact. "You will not take my daughter. Emily, trust me." She shouted, laying herself bare in the face of the darkness. As if her words broke the spell, the forest trembled violently and the shadows began to dissolve, unraveling into the air like mist before the dawn. But before they vanished completely, a monstrous shadow lunged toward her, teeth bared in a final, desperate attempt to grasp its prey. In that moment, Lisa faced the darkness without fear, embracing the pain and losses that had brought her here. "You can't own me. I am my daughter's mother." With a visceral roar, she thrust her arm forward, heart pounding, as light exploded from the artifact in a hurricane of brilliance. "Emily!" she cried, every inch of her filled with a fierce need to reclaim her daughter. The shadows screamed, disintegrating under the weight of her love etched in the light. Then, like images flickering in unison, she saw them, moments of laughter, warmth, and togetherness shared under the sun, visions of tea parties, bedtime stories, and unwavering love. They rushed through her mind, stroking her soul with hope. As Lisa's voice mixed with her memories, she felt a rush echo around them, a collective song against the darkness, a celebration of life and love that reverberated through the forest. "I choose light. I choose love." The shadows howled in defeat, their grotesque forms collapsing under her intensity, twisting into nothing as rays of glowing warmth enveloped her. "Mommy, are you here?" Emily stood in front of her, little arms reaching out as tendrils of darkness turned to vapor around them. Tears filled Lisa's eyes as she lunged forward, grasping Emily tightly in her arms. "Emily!" she gasped, warmth flooding through her. "I found you." As the last shadows faded away, the surrounding forest transformed, the gnarled trees slowly returning to lush, verdant life bathed in starlight. The air felt light and free, the breeze cradling them like a mother's embrace. "Mommy, I was scared," Emily said, her small voice trembling but filled with hope. "I know, sweet girl," Lisa whispered, cradling her daughter against her heart. "But we're home now. Together always." With a rush of relief flooding over them, they turned toward the clearing, where the artifact still lay, dull and lifeless amidst the dawn. "Let us bury them deep, away from here," Lisa said, determination seeping back into her bones. "No more whispers, no more shadows taking anyone." And as they walked hand in hand out of the woods, vines of darkness slowly receding behind them, Lisa felt a profound sense of peace. The shadows had been vanquished, and light had embraced them once again. Their hearts beat in synchronous rhythm, mother and daughter, reclaiming their lives, filled with love. The woods whispered sweetly now, free of the torment that once filled them, echoing old tales of hope and redemption. Within her chest, Lisa held tightly to her memories, the intertwining threads of a love that would never fade. As dawn's light spilled forth, she smiled at Emily. Together they would forge ahead, into whatever tomorrow had to offer, hand in hand, united in spirit. If you made it this far, now is the time to act. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and share the love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is what keeps these stories alive.